Well, with the operation to retake Mosul in northern Iraq underway, a car bomb at a security checkpoint south of Baghdad has killed 10 people and injured 25. The suicide bomber detonated the explosives as a convoy of Shia fighters were passing in Yusufia, 15 kilometers south of the Iraqi capital. So far, no group has claimed responsibility. Well, for more analysis on the situation in Iraq, we can now speak to Saad Al-Muttalibi in Baghdad. He's a former political advisor to the Ministry of Dialogue and Reconciliation in Iraq. Mr. Al-Muttalibi, thank you very much for joining us on TRT World. So how do you see the fight for Mosul going in the early stages?
Yes, thank you very much for the interview. And it's obvious that ISIS is on the last stages of this events that took place 2 years ago. Iraqi forces from one side, the Peshmerga on the other side, the PMUs, public mobilization units on standby, the local police and the federal police are participating with a tremendous amount of force for the final preparation to enter Mosul. The outside defenses of ISIS has been destroyed this morning. The American Air Force and the American fighters have done a wonderful job in reducing the first lines of defenses for ISIS into rubbles and killing huge numbers of ISIS fighters. Continued advances of the Iraqi forces, 6 kilometers in the morning was achieved towards Mosul, with destroying the first line of defense for ISIS on both fronts. On the Peshmerga side, on the Kurdish side, that is northeast, and on the south by the Iraqi army and the Iraqi police. So up to this moment, things are moving positively. It's difficult for ISIS to stand against such a huge force that's taking place in the present battles that are going on.
Mr. Al-Muttalibi, do you expect ISIS, as you say, to stand and fight, or do you expect them to disappear into the desert as they have done previously? And if they do, then what happens next? They'll just pop up somewhere else.
Well, ISIS, the Iraqi army, it seems that have opened one way out for ISIS on the western side. ISIS can either stay and fight and be killed, or gather their forces and try to make a run to the Syrian border. It is very difficult for them to move north towards Kurdistan and toward Turkey, because that area is an army theater at the moment, and it's very difficult for them to head north. So the only possible route for them for safety is to run for the Syrian border. And after again, that line will be, of course, monitored by forces. But sorry,
Mr. Al-Muttalibi, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but are you going to allow them to escape to Raqqa rather than trying to destroy them as a group and as a fighting force?
No, we are giving them a way out so they don't have to die in Mosul. It's very difficult. It's not correct to surround an army by 360 degrees and allow them to not give them a choice for escape. If you surround them completely, they will have to stay and fight. And because we have civilians, a lot of civilians in Mosul, we need ISIS to leave the city and head to the border in an open area where we can fight them in the desert. But to fight them inside the city, I think that will be very difficult. So therefore, it will be wiser for them and for the forces fighting them to launch this battle out away from built-up areas. Built-up areas will allow them to use civilians as human shields. Therefore, I'm expecting that an opening will be provided for them to move away towards the border, where they could be dealt with automatically there.
Okay, and just finally and quickly, if you will, Mr. Al-Muttalibi, the security situation across the rest of the country in Iraq, while the focus is on Mosul, how will that be maintained? We have had a bombing near Baghdad earlier today. Are you concerned that security may diminish while the focus is on the liberation of Mosul?
No, we are very concerned with the security environment here in Baghdad, because ISIS does still have supporters among the population. There are still people with the unprecedented way of this takfiri way of thinking. Therefore, the battle with ISIS will continue in Baghdad and in other areas in Iraq where there is either sleeper cells or terrorists, the old terrorists, which will again try to use the old ways of bombing and booby-trapped cars and so on. So that is a completely different issue which we need to keep fighting and making sure that security levels are better here in Baghdad. Okay. And other cities, of course.
Absolutely. Okay, Saad Al-Muttalibi, we thank you very much for joining us here on TRT World. Thank you.